Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the NBA slate on DraftKings for Thursday, October the 25th. We have a 4-game slate for this Thursday. I'm going to go through each position and talk about some of my favorite plays on this 4-game slate. Try and give you some value, some studs I like, mid-tier plays. Go through all the price tiers. And of course, I'll give my core 5 guys I expect to have a lot of exposure to come lineup lock. But before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. It does mean a lot. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at point guard for this 4-game slate. We do have Russell Westbrook at 10,500, who gets a matchup at home against the Celtics. Not really that great of a matchup. The Celtics do play really good team defense. But Westbrook at 10.5 I think is definitely in play. He's only played one game this year, but that one game was a pretty good game for him, at least when it comes to fantasy. He did put up 58 DraftKings points in that one game, played 35 minutes, so there's going to be no restrictions for Westbrook. He's going to be back to his normal self. 10,500 is just too cheap of a price tag for Westbrook. So I do like him if you can fit him in on this slate. We'll talk about LeBron when we get to small forward, when we get to center. We'll talk about Jokic, Drummond, Blake Griffin. We'll talk about some of the other studs, but Westbrook's definitely up there as one of my favorite ones on the slate. Damian Lillard at 8,700. I don't know how much exposure I'm going to have to him. With him being so up there with Westbrook, I feel like I'm probably just going to try and force in Westbrook if I'm going to pay that much for a point guard. I'm not going to full fade Lillard on this slate, but he's probably going to be someone I have minimal exposure to. If I'm not paying up for Westbrook, I'm probably just going to go to the mid-range at this position. You do have Kyrie at 7,300, who I think is a fine play. His price tag is starting to catch up, though, so he's not like a core play for me, but I'm sure I'll have some Kyrie. Lonzo at 6,400 does still feel a little bit too cheap against Denver. Not the greatest matchup. Denver does have some solid guards like Gary Harris, who can really defend well. But Lonzo at 6,400 with Rondo still suspended. I do like Lonzo, as long as Rondo's suspended for this game. I think he's suspended for 3 games, I believe. So this will be the 3rd game. Yeah, he's suspended for 3 games, so this will be the last game where Rondo's suspended. So Lonzo definitely in play at 6,400. Schroeder, I'm probably not going to be on at 6,300 with Westbrook back. I'd rather just play Lonzo for 100 more. Jamal Murray, I think, is the mid-tier play you probably want at this position. He's only 5,900, facing a fast-paced Lakers team that hasn't really played that much defense this year. Really like Jamal Murray here. I think I'd play him over Reggie Jackson if I had to choose between one of those two guys. And then when it comes to value, value's pretty thin at point guard on this slate, at least in my opinion. You do have George Hill at 4,500, who's probably going to play close to 30 minutes if it's a competitive game against Detroit. So he's definitely in play. I don't know how much George Hill I'm going to have, but he's probably going to play 30 minutes, and he's only 4,500, so I feel like he has to be considered. But point guard for me, if I'm not paying up for Westbrook, I'll probably just go to Lonzo or Jamal Murray. Those are probably the guys I'm going to stick to at point guard. So let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard. Gary Harris, just 6,500, our most expensive shooting guard on the slate. And I think he's definitely obviously the best shooting guard option in my opinion, and by far one of my favorite plays on this slate. At 6,500 against the Lakers, great spot for Gary Harris. We know with Will Barton out, Gary Harris is going to see some increased usage, just going to get more opportunity with Barton out. Last game against the Kings, he only played 26 minutes because that game blew out, but he still put up 31 DraftKings points. Gary Harris is just a really consistent fantasy player. When it comes to fantasy, you can pretty much lock him in for about 30 points a night. With Barton out, he has the upside to get you 40, 45, and especially against the Lakers team. In this game, a game that should be high scoring, I think there's a lot of good plays in this game. Jamal Murray, Gary Harris are definitely 2 of them from the Nuggets side. But going back to shooting guard, looking at other plays, if I'm going 6K or above for a shooting guard, it's Gary Harris for me. I'm playing Gary Harris over Schroeder today. I'd play him over Josh Hart, play him over McCollum. So let's try and go to the mid-range where you have Jamal Murray and Reggie Jackson, who I've talked about. Evan Fournier does feel a little bit too cheap at 5,600. You never really know what you're going to get from Evan Fournier. If he's not hitting his shots, he's not really going to be a great play. But at 5,600, I could definitely see wanting to go there. Gordon Hayward, I'll probably be shying away from as long as he's still on a minutes restriction. He is cheap at 5,500, but I don't really want to play a guy on a minutes restriction. So shooting guard's pretty gross today if you're not going to pay up for Gary Harris. Again, the value is pretty thin, like George Hill, probably going to play 30 minutes, but George Hill, you never know what you're going to get from him. But he is cheap. He's going to play minutes, so I feel like I have to consider him. Nick Stauskas, has been playing really well for the Trailblazers. He's 4K. He's been making his shots lately. Been shooting really well from the field. Been very efficient. We look at his last few games. He's been getting pretty solid minutes. 30 minutes, 21 minutes, 27 minutes. Been shooting really well, at least in that game against the Lakers and against Washington. Put up 34 and 32 DraftKings points. 4K, Nick Stauskas could be a value play. Also have Torrey Craig at 3,800, who should continue to start for Will Barton. We don't really know how efficient Craig's going to be. He's not like a great fantasy player. But if he's going to start at 3,800 and play 25, 30 minutes against the Lakers, I think we have to consider him here. So if you need value, if you just want a straight-up punt, shooting guard, I think Torrey Craig is in play at 3,800. But that's really it for shooting guard, in my opinion. So let's quickly go over small forward, where we do have LeBron up top here, and LeBron is definitely in play for me. If I have to rank him like Westbrook and LeBron, I think I'd prefer Westbrook on this slate. But LeBron's obviously a guy I'm not going to fade. I'm going to have exposure to LeBron. I'll probably have more exposure to Westbrook than I do LeBron. This is a back-to-back for the Lakers. This isn't a great matchup. Denver does have solid team defense. They do have some solid defenders, like I mentioned, Gary Harris, a really good defender. But LeBron, this is a good game for him, like a game at home against a competitive Nuggets team. This game should be competitive. Things set up really well for LeBron here. With no Rondo, with no Ingram, like I've mentioned in the past few videos, LeBron's just going to have the ball in his hands a ton, just going to have to do so much. So I do like him at 10-7 if you can afford him at small forward. But I feel like it's going to be tough to fit him in with like some of the other studs we want on this slate. So we're probably going to have to sacrifice. Look for other plays. Paul George for me is probably a guy I'm going to avoid. 8,200. I like the price tag, but with just how small forward sets up, I just try and get up to LeBron if I'm going to pay that much for a small forward, or just go down to the cheaper options. In the mid-range, Cedi Osman, a guy I really like. He's only 5,900. He seems like one of the better values on this slate. Against Detroit, Cedi Osman should not be this cheap. 5,900 is just too cheap of a price for him. In competitive games this year, Osman's playing 35, 40 minutes. He's been great for fantasy, 40 DraftKings points. First game, 40 DK points next game. Didn't have that great a game against the Hawks, only 24 DK points. But he still played 39 minutes in that game. So you're getting big minutes out of Osman. He's too cheap to be playing the amount of minutes he is. So he's one of the clear point per dollar plays I see on this slate at 5,900 at small forward. He's probably going to be the guy I really focus on if I'm not playing LeBron. So the value plays for me are not really here, or just I'm not going to be playing these cheap guys when I have Osman at 5,900, who just really sticks out, like Aminu, Jaylen Brown, Trey Lyles. I just don't see myself having a lot of exposure to these guys. Rodney Hood, I just don't see myself going to a lot of these guys. So small forward for me, it's mainly LeBron if I can fit him in, but mostly Cedi Osman I'll be playing here. Maybe some Kuzma, but Kuzma's price is starting to really increase. Aaron Gordon seems a bit cheap, but 7,100, I think I'm probably going to need the savings on this slate, so I'll probably have to go down from Gordon to Osman. But if I can get up from Osman to Gordon, I could see doing that. But that's really it for small forward. Let's go ahead and move over to power forward. Blake Griffin, Kevin Love, two guys we have up top at this position. Blake Griffin coming off a 50-point game. I expect to get some ownership today. He's 9,600. In my opinion, that's just too expensive of a price tag for Blake Griffin. 50-point games are not something we're normally going to see from this guy. And the production he's put up so far this year, I don't think really is sustainable. I think we're going to see him regress later on in the year. It is a good matchup against Cleveland, but at 9,600, I'll be avoiding Blake Griffin on this slate, especially if he's going to be pretty popular. I'd rather just try and find $100 or $1,000 to get up to LeBron, or just go $1,000 cheaper and play someone like Kevin Love, who just has to do everything for this Cleveland team. Cleveland doesn't really have anybody they can rely on to score but Kevin Love, so Love's going to continue to dominate when it comes to usage for this team. He's going to be grabbing all the rebounds, going to have to score, just going to have to do so much. And at 8,500, that's a nice price tag for Kevin Love. He's probably my favorite power forward if I can pay up at this position. But I feel like I'm going to probably need to save some money sooner or later, so let's try and go cheap here. Let's look for some value. There's a value play I like at this position. So I really like Tristan Thompson. You can play him at power forward on DraftKings, which is very nice because there's a lot of centers I like on the slate. So being able to play Tristan at power forward definitely helps out. I think this is a really good spot for Tristan Thompson. Going up against Drummond and going up against Blake Griffin, they're going to need a big body on the floor. I'm expecting Tristan Thompson to have to play at least 30 minutes if this is a competitive game. At 4,800, if we're going to get 30 minutes from Tristan Thompson, he can easily get a double-double, can easily get 30 DraftKings points, and be great value at 4,800. So I really like Tristan Thompson if you're going cheap at power forward. I think he's one of the better value plays at this position. Maybe one of the better value plays just overall on the slate. So that's it for power forward. You do have Larry Nance at 4,400, who should also be looking at some nice minutes since they're probably going to need him to guard Drummond. They're going to need him to guard Blake Griffin. You could go to Larry Nance. I'd probably just play Thompson over him, but if you want to play both of them, I could see wanting to do that. But let's go ahead and move on to center. There's a lot of good center plays I like on this slate. So starting off in Nikola Jokic, love him at 9,800 against the Lakers. The Lakers don't really have a big that can stop Jokic unless they put like LeBron on him. But I'd imagine that most likely JaVale McGee is going to be guarding Jokic. And Jokic should just be able to dominate in that matchup. Love this spot for him. If this is a competitive game and Jokic plays his full minutes, then he's going to absolutely crush. We saw against Phoenix, he played 31 minutes against them and put up 81 DraftKings points. I was very high on Jokic his last game against Sacramento. He only played 23 minutes because the game blew out. But in 23 minutes, he still put up 40 DK points. So I love Jokic here. I feel like this is going to be a competitive game. He's going to have to play his full minutes. At 9,800, I could easily see him getting 60 DraftKings points, getting 6x value on that price tag, and he is definitely one of my favorite center plays and one of my favorite studs overall on the slate. Probably would play him over LeBron and over Westbrook, especially with the savings you get. If we're just talking about raw projection, LeBron's probably the highest overall projected guy on the slate, but salary is a thing. When Jokic is nearly $1,000 cheaper, I'll probably just take the $1,000 in savings and go down to Jokic in 9,800. But looking at other center plays, you do have Drummond, who I think is in play at 9K. I'd rather go up to Jokic, so I'm probably not going to have much exposure to Drummond. But he'll for sure be in my player pool. If I get some of them, I'll be okay with that. But I'll most likely be prioritizing Jokic over Drummond. But in the mid-range, if you're not paying up for Jokic, there are good plays here. I really like Steven Adams. Steven Adams just seems underpriced for how well he's been playing this year and for this matchup against the Celtics. Al Horford, he is a good defender, but he's not that good of a rebounder. Steven Adams, a pretty good rebounder, should definitely be able to dominate the boards in this game, should easily be able to get a double-double. In competitive games this year, Steven Adams is playing a ton of minutes, playing about 35 minutes a game. With Russell Westbrook back, we know they're going to be running that pick and roll a lot. Adams is going to get a lot of opportunity for easy baskets. He's been great this year so far, 41, 43, 37 DraftKings points through 3 games. I think we get about 40 DK points from Steven Adams today, if not more than that. At 6,800, 40 DK points I will definitely take at this price tag. So really like Steven Adams at center. You do have Nurkic for 100 less, who is in a good matchup against the Magic. I think Nurkic maybe has more upside, but Steven Adams, if we're talking about floor, definitely has a better floor than Nurkic. Then going to the value, the cheap plays at center. So we do have JaVale McGee at 5,300, who's been producing really well this year. Hasn't been playing a ton of minutes, but he's been good so far for fantasy. 32, 35, and 31 DraftKings points through 3 games. Like I said, he hasn't been playing a ton of minutes, just 22, 20, and 28 minutes through those 3 games. But if he's playing well and defending Jokic really well, there's a good chance he could look at about 25 minutes here. We know McGee's a very good point per minute producer when he's on the court. 5,300 if you're trying to go cheap at center and you're not playing like Tristan Thompson at this position, then McGee I feel like definitely makes sense at 5,300. But that's really it for center, at least the center plays that I like on this slate. And I think that's it for the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy the video, and hopefully this video did help you. If you did enjoy, just make sure you click that like button down below. I would really appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe down below if you haven't already. And if you haven't turned on notifications as well, make sure you click that bell icon that is next to the subscribe button, and that will notify you every time I upload, so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. But yeah, good luck tonight on this 4-game slate, guys, and we will see you back again on Friday. Peace.